All right. Hello, everyone. My name is Ari. Today, I will be talking about Garden, a fair framework for publishing and applying AI models. And I'm going to speak about Garden, our new initiative here, as well as DL Hub, the Data and Learning Hub for Science, which is its predecessor. And I'm going to connect both back to FuncX and how FuncX forms the foundation for these platforms and basically allows them to work. So first off, the problem. So data and machine learning are becoming key drivers of scientific progress. As we can see here in the chart, the percentage of machine learning publications in materials science, chemistry, and physics has grown dramatically in the last 5 to 6 years. So we have a lot of machine learning models out there, and we have a lot of data. But then the question is, of course, what can we do with them? So how can we actually use these models and take advantage of these machine learning gains in our own research? Well, first, to reproduce a work from a given study, we need to ask ourselves a few questions, right? Like, where is the code? Excuse me. Is the code easy to find? Is it linked in the paper at all? And then where are the trained models and where are the data, the training data? If the data or models are published at all, if so, like how findable are they? And then how can I actually reproduce these results? Are the models easy to run? Like if a GitHub repo is available, is it in a state that's usable and understandable? Do you, as someone trying to reproduce this work, have the hardware available, the resources to train or run these models? And even if you can, I'm sure we've all found that often like results can differ from the studies depending on the hyperparameters you choose, the architecture of your machine, etc. And so without all these pieces, progress is drastically slowed, and all of the published machine learning models and data out there are limited in their utility. So we want data and models to be fair, that is findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. Otherwise, much of this work winds up here in the metaphorical dumpster where the community cannot use it. So starting in 2018, our team built DL Hub, the Data and Learning Hub for Science, which is a one-stop shop to find, share, publish, and run models or functions in the cloud built on top of FuncX. If a user wants to publish a model or function, they can take any Python model developed using TensorFlow, Keras, PyTorch, etc., and publish via the command line interface or our SDK, our Python SDK. And then the model is available through our website, dlhub.org, or through the Python SDK. And then after that submission process comes the container creation process, and this is where FuncX comes in. And I'm going to go over this a little more in the next slide. And so here we create the container for the model so that someone can run it in the cloud. And the publisher gets back some important information, such as like a DOI for setting the model, a convenient like web landing page, and an API to the model. And then the model gets registered in our search database. So if another user finds DL Hub and wants to use any of the models here, they can directly use the Python SDK to run the model in the cloud, search for it, etc., or they can use the website. And here, FuncX is used for all model inference tasks. So when you run a model through DL Hub, you're using the FuncX run functionality underneath. So I'm going to go over the container process a little bit here. To create a working model container, a process on our DL Hub server monitors for publication requests, and then it creates a Docker container and installs certain packages such as FuncX Endpoint, which is one of ours, and Home Run to make it work. And this container is built with all the files necessary for a model. So at submission time, the user would specify which files they wanted. So here you can see there are certain user specified files such as like the saved model file, requirements.txt to preserve the environment state, etc. And there's some generated by our service like dlhub.json and the runtime file. And these serve as configs. So then we register the container and a special function that we create for every published model called DLHub run. We register both of these with funcx, and DLHub run uses this DLHub.json metadata file, which is generated at the time of submission, to specify exactly how to run each user's unique servable. So in this way, we have infrastructure where someone can submit any kind of function and we can run it in the cloud using funcx. So DLHub.run or DLHub run, here we have a little snippet of what the definition of the function looks like. Using this package called home run, it dynamically creates the servable from this metadata file, the DLHub.json file that the user, that came with the user's submission when they made their request. And so this happens with each servable, and then it goes into the search database. And for this to work, we've deployed a funcx endpoint on UC's River Kubernetes cluster to serve requests, but a user, or like theoretically, we can deploy our own funcx endpoint somewhere else, and it would allow you to run models yourself. Oh, whoops, I got some good arrows that I forgot about. There we go. Yes, and so that metadata file contains all the servable specific info. So that was kind of a little crash course on DLHub, and then quickly, because I see I'm running out of time. So Garden serves as an ecosystem to connect researchers, resources, and models. And so as you can see here, this is very similar to the DLHub diagram I just showed. DLHub kind of laid the groundwork for what we could do with model publishing, containerization, and cataloging. And we wanted to take it one step further with Garden, which builds upon DLHub with additional core functionality, concepts, and a reimagined web platform. So most notably, instead of one model in isolation, models are published together in what we call model gardens, which are collections of curated models linked with the data and computing resources required to advance the work of specific communities. And then we're also going to overhaul DLHub's containerization process using the funcx container service that Ben Galuski presented on yesterday. And critically, users will have the ability to test and validate their models so that users know whether a particular model or a collection of models does what they need it to. And lastly, through related tools, model and dataset publishers can track usage metrics. So our goal is to make it easy for the user to assess the applicability, compatibility, and reliability of a model. So here's an initial concept of what an individual model card might look like in the web UI. I'm not going to go through it as much as I had planned to because I went a little over time. Sorry, y'all. So I'm just going to stop right there. But basically, the idea was we wanted to make it very easy for people to look and assess and then take actions and decide whether they want to cite or share the model, how they can discover it, like how they can understand better by using the model playground or using the SDK. And lastly, we're currently looking for other developers to help us build this vision. Right now, we're in kind of the design and very early development phase. So please reach out if you are interested. And thank you to everyone who made this happen. Yeah, really excited about this project. All right, does anyone have any questions?
Ben? Just a quick comment that I think you know, and I know Ben knows, that we're trying to do some work on standardizing what fair means for models.
Yes.
So I'm hoping we'll work with you as you figure things out and have examples as well.
Yeah, most definitely.
It was we.
It's a Research Data Alliance working group.
Okay.
So lots of people.
So just a quick question. How does the model playground feel as models get bigger and bigger? How do we deal with very large compute requirements?
I'm sorry, I couldn't quite hear you. Said very large compute requirements. Is that right?
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So in training GPT, how can I put GPT in there?
Well, not necessarily GPT, but models are, models are getting bigger every day, and
Yeah.
What does big look like?
I mean, that depends, right?
So it has to fit into a Docker image. So there's like What is good taste for a Docker image?
Well, there's good taste and there's what people do.
Doesn't necessarily have to fit
It
in
can
a.
get pretty large without
container.
getting like breaking
Yeah.
down.
We run them just by storing them on ALCF and then just putting the sort of container around it next to it. And that's one way we can host them. We've done that at UIUC as well.
Thanks.
Are we talking terabytes?
Potentially.
Oh, wow. That's bad taste. That is very bad taste.
Stories.
Ari, I had a last question, I guess.
Sure.
What's the most popular model that's hosted?
What's the largest model?
No, what's the most popular model? Like what gets used the
Oh.
most?
That's a great question. I think probably, so our collaborators at the University of Wisconsin do a lot of like testing of their own models using DL Hub. So I think probably theirs just by sheer like force of testing. It's a, and specifically I'm thinking of, it's a compound detection model that Ryan Jacobs at the University of, of Wisconsin has. Yeah, besides our NOAA model, which we use for internal testing, but they use it to test like their models specifically. So I'd say that's probably the most common just by sheer numbers. A lot of material science models are in there consequently.